and welcome back to another video. My name is Kate, and I'm going to do something a little different today. Usually I'm talking about books I've already read, and this time I'm going to talk about books that I want to read and some general reading goals for the new year. I've had 2 good reading years in a row, and I've done that all kind of without really specific goals, so I thought I would try something new and actually make goals and see if I can have like the best reading year ever maybe. So I've got 10 goals I want to talk about, and so stick around and because I've got some nice things planned for the rest of the year. And I'm going to try and not abuse the wheelie, spinny swivel chair that I'm in because this is all I want to do when I sit in one. So I'm going to try and restrain myself. The first goal I want to talk about is I want to read more outside of my comfort zone. Usually what I'm reading is like kind of darker literary fiction, modern classics from the 20th century, and like raw, emotionally unflinching memoirs. Usually this means that they're kind of dense and a little heavy on the heart. So I think it would be nice for me to read a little bit outside of that and start reading more genre fiction, because don't I deserve to have a nice time too? Like, yes, I put a lot of pressure on myself on trying to be like a good global citizen, and I want to read, good books, and I'm a bit of a snob, so I want things to be, you know, incredibly well written, when sometimes I can probably just have a silly, goofy time. And also, isn't it possible for something to be well written and also silly, goofy? Like, camp exists for a reason. Also, I have enjoyed things like horror and sci-fi and romance and adventure, those kinds of stories in other mediums. Like, I love a silly, goofy movie, and I'm one of the biggest cinephiles out there. I'm a big movie snob. My husband says I'm very picky, and sometimes I fight him on that, but you know what? He's right. Don't tell him that he's right. Because I just like things to be a certain way, but I feel like there is more um, room for forgiveness, more like wiggle room when I watch movies. Like, it doesn't need to be the best thing in the world in order for me to enjoy it. Like, I love, for example, like little silly rom-coms from, the 80s into the early 2000s. I love those. I also think they're kind of good too. Like, it's not just like bad good, or like not entirely camp. Some of those are really well structured and well performed, but they also are kind of silly goofy. So like, why don't I want to take some of that lightness, some of that fun into this medium as well? So I want to try maybe reading some like romantic comedy stuff. It's just going to be a struggle to find stuff that I enjoy and that I find worthwhile. I just don't want to read anything that vapid. My reading time is so precious to me that like when it becomes a little too silly. I'm using the word silly a lot, huh? I just feel like I'm wasting time, but I'm trying to, by reading outside of my comfort zone and seeing what the big deal is with all of these other books that other people are reading, to try and loosen up a little bit. Additionally, last year I started reading fantasy again. I haven't read fantasy since, I don't know, middle school, and I read the Poppy War trilogy, and I read, I guess Parable of the Sower, sort of dystopian, almost sci-fi, and those were both in my like top 5 of the year. So I feel like there is genre fiction out there that's for me, and I just want to go on adventures and have fun times because I do miss that aspect of it from youth. So I'm trying to have a bit more fun this year. Kind of an extension of that, my second goal is to read more popular books. I feel like I do this thing, and it's not just with books, it's also with movies, TV shows, and movies, that when something's popular, something in my brain says, I don't want to read it. I don't want to watch it. I'm putting it off. Like, I'm only just now watching Breaking Bad, so you can understand that, like, there's some disease in my brain where I can't watch what other people are watching. I don't know. I'm sure in 20 years I'm gonna watch Stranger Things and be like, guys, have you heard of this show? So I want to be better about that because, like, if a lot of people like something, they must know something that I don't. Like, what, 4 million people who read XYZ can't be wrong? Well, that's not entirely true. I'm just saying that reading popular books and reading outside of my comfort zone kind of go hand in hand, and I do have some things in mind. For example, the girlies love Emily Henry. They love her. I just don't really read romance like that. I mean, I like a romantic subplot in like a literary fiction novel or a fantasy novel, or I like sort of a hard-hitting romantic storyline that will almost certainly end in tragedy. But like, why can't I just have like a rom-com in a book? So I'm gonna try her this year because there are people that I watch on YouTube that like swear by her books, and we read a lot in common anyway. So I'm like, if they can read this dark stuff and this light stuff and still hold it of equal or similar value, or still get like some value out of it in terms of both enjoyment and like community building with the other people who read it, then like maybe I can too. Similar on that list, I have like Dolly Alderton. I already own one of her books, so I'm gonna try and get to that this year. I've written some titles down here. I have my notes down here of some books that I've just heard about and have been like actively avoiding for God knows what reason. The Midnight Library. Everybody loves this. People have been reading it since, I don't know, when did that publish? Right, 2020. So for about 6 years now, people are swearing by this book. I'm now seeing a little bit of criticism about this book that is like leaking through into my algorithm. So maybe I'll read it for myself and decide. I know I want to read some books with my mom this year, and I think we already owned this book, so I'm gonna try and get to that. Everybody loves Martyr, and that's one of those books where I see it all the time, and my brain just keeps like tossing it aside, even though people I respect love this book, and it's been on like some of the best of the year lists already. So I'm gonna try and read Martyr. Um, Severance is like a dystopian apocalyptic. I think it's about a pandemic or something, and it was published like February 2020. Bananas. So I'm gonna try to read Severance. There's a book called Big Swiss. I'm trying to read, or I do love. Sorry, I can hear my husband outside the door, and knowing that he's listening to me talk to myself, I'm trying to fight the cringe. Anyway, I've been seeing Big Swiss everywhere, and I love a character-driven, like unlikable female character. Some of my favorite books of last year: Hello, Rin and the Poppy War. Um, we can talk about Boy Parts, we can talk about Luster. So I think this could potentially be for me. It's just all of like the hot cool girls are reading it, and I'm not a hot cool girl. So I just, for some reason, some lizard part of my brain is like, I'm not cool enough to read this book. So those are just some books that I'm thinking about, that come to mind when I was writing the script literally 10 minutes ago, that I would like to try and get to this year. But as people throughout this year start reading books and things become, mass internet preoccupations, I'd like to try and get in on that. I'd like to have a say in the conversation. My third goal of this year is actually a goal I had last year. I think I started this in the spring of last year. I haven't been like totally good about keeping up with it, but I want to read more banned books. Last April, the Defense Secretary banned a bunch of books in armed forces libraries. This hits really home, really close to home for me. Also, because the government has power, specific power over these libraries, they can kind of do whatever the hell they want. And so these are the books that the government very explicitly does not want you to be reading, which means that's books you absolutely should be reading. So there are some books about like racism and slavery, like the 1619 Project and Stamped from the Beginning. I already read some books from last year, like How to Be an Anti-Racist and I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And then there are some novels that they banned as well, like The Hate You Give and Sold. And so I'm going to try and read those because these are like really acclaimed in my circles. So it's sort of, it's two goals at once again with reading banned books and reading popular books. I also just want to be a good global citizen. I want to be informed. It's really easy to feel so helpless, especially since I spend most of my time outside of the country, that it feels very helpless and very powerless, and I don't know what to do. But somehow reading banned books it feels like it gives me a little bit of empowerment over at least the information I can consume and the opinions I can come to. So I think that they're important to read, so I'm going to continue trying to do that this year. My fourth goal is kind of a big one. It's kind of my main one almost, and that is to read the books that I own. I am always doing two things. One, buying books. I'm way better than most people. I buy maybe a book a month when I'm over in France, mostly because I'm pinching my pennies. But I buy 1 or 2 books a month And then sometimes I am acquiring books at free little libraries, book swaps. Sometimes the library here will like set out free books you can take, and I just took some of these classics. So I feel like I'm acquiring books at a rate that is inappropriate given the state of my current collection. I see people online who are like, I have 300 unread books. I may have like 50 altogether, but it does feel a little overwhelming at times or a little inappropriate because it's possible that you kind of age out of like the books you want to read, like your just reading tastes develop, and then you buy books for your current reading taste, and then you put them off and put them off and put them off, and then several years later you don't really want to read it anymore because your tastes have changed. So that could have had a great impact on you 4 years ago, but you missed out on it because you were fooling around. And by you I mean me. And I am, super aware of this because I'm back at my in my hometown for the winter, and I'm looking at the shelves like of all the books I've left behind, and I'm like, these are books I bought 6 years ago that I haven't read, and that's a different Caitlin. That's a different Caitlin. I don't know her, and so I'm trying to read these books I bought like 6+ years ago, and I'm like, man, I bought this, and I'm not sure I want to read it anymore, but like I own it. So there's like that being the struggle. Additionally, like I'm always reading books from the library, and it is kind of a weird goal to have to read less from the library, but I'm always on that Libby app. I'm always putting things on hold. I'm a big like, ooh, shiny, I want to read it right now when I have plenty of books that I could already be reading. So I think my like statistics for last year were, I think only 1/3 of the books I read physically, which means those are the books that I like physically owned, and then almost 2/3 were audio or digital, which means I read them on the Libby app. So I feel like I would make that maybe 50-50 or 2/3, 1/3 in the other direction, because I would love, my ultimate goal is to read everything that I own. And then at the beginning of the month, go to the bookstore and read what I want to read and like buy what I want to read immediately. And then read those 2 or 3 books that I buy in that month so that I am buying and reading with a really quick turnaround. And that way I'm buying for my current tastes and reading for my current tastes. That is the ultimate goal. As for trying to read all of these books, I do have some like vlog ideas. I want to try doing some vloggy stuff, like I'm going and seeing which books are the most popular that I have on my shelf based on the amount of reviews they have on like Goodreads or Storygraph. I want to try and read like, I'm going to read all books that have like a red cover today. Like that is kind of like funny little ideas I have, so I think that could be kind of fun. And so stick around as I try and read all of those books. My 5th goal, I want to read more French literature. I married a French citizen. I've been living in France. I will eventually have to take this citizenship test. And I know that that citizenship test won't just be name the departments, name this cheese, quickly light this cigarette and bitch about something. I would love if that was the citizenship test because that's kind of like the essentials. However, I know I'm going to have to probably hold opinions about the country and understand the history of the country in an intimate way in order to pass that test, and also to feel good about my place in the country, because once I'm a citizen I can vote and I want to be an informed voter. So I want to read, some classics like Alexandre Dumas, Victor Hugo, and one of my major goals for this year is I want to read Les Miserables. I bought that book a long time ago. I think I bought it during the pandemic thinking, it's my time, I'm gonna read it, because I love the musical, hello. But it's been sitting on the shelf, and I've been bringing it, from house to my apartment, and sometimes I carry it around, and I think I'm gonna read it, and I never read it. So that's kind of one of my main goals, is to finally get to that this summer. It feels like a summer read to me, I don't know why. And I also want to read some like more modern contemporary French literature so that I can better understand like the current contemporary French experience, and I want to hold complex opinions about the country and its people. So I feel like the best way to do that is to hop to it and get reading. Another goal I want to reread more. This was a goal I had last year. I said I want to reread once a month. I think I did that for the first 3 months, and then I didn't reread again. So I think I reread 3 things. I'm gonna try and be reasonable and double that number for this year. I'm not gonna reread every month. I think I want to reread maybe every other month and reread 6 things. I think rereading is important so you can continue to develop your opinions, so you can be reflective. I know some books that I reread often, they sort of change every time you read them because you are different every time you read them, and that's kind of a fun experience. And I know like to write is to rewrite, and so I feel like to read might be to reread. I don't know. It's a theory I have. So that's another goal. Um, I have another goal, and this could be interesting video content. The New York Times, was it last year or the year before? They put out an article of the 100 best books of the 21st century. I made an Excel spreadsheet because I would like to read them all. I want to read more contemporary literature, and I've been doing pretty good doing that the last couple of years because I used to only read classics, and now I feel like I'm reading a good mix. And I think I've only read less than like 20 books on this list. And the books that I have read, they can be hit or miss, obviously, but the books that I have read that appear on this list are some of my favorites or some that I really, really love. Like Men We Reaped, Never Let Me Go, Cavalier and Clay. And I feel like there's just, this is kind of a good roadmap of trying to read more authors that are living. I feel like I read a lot of dead authors, and I'd like to read more that are living and that I could potentially look forward to a new release. I want to read, again, this kind of ties into reading popular books, it ties into reading outside of my comfort zone. I'm a completionist, I love a list, I love checking things off. Some books I have on my radar are like A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James, because I'm interested in Jamaica. I read a good book called How to Save Babylon last year, which is a memoir about Jamaica, Rastafarianism, and I think this has to do with the assassination of Bob Marley, I think. And so I'm interested in that. I want to read The Sympathizer because I'm interested in Vietnam. And Station 11 is a book that a professor of mine, every time I meet him for coffee, is like, "Have you read Station 11 yet?" And that it's been like 5 years of that, and I feel like I should do him a favor and read Station 11. So my last goals, I wanted to make it 10, okay? I wanted to make it 10, so I have some other little goals here that are more sort of overarching goals that I can cover really quickly. Number 8 is something new I'm doing this year, is to not have like a physical reading goal, because I use Storygraph. Before that I was on Goodreads, and so you would, at the beginning of the year, say, I want to read 50 books this year. I want to read 85 books, 100 books, or whatever it is. And I would always have my goal be the number I read last year plus 1. And I usually make that work. Last year I read less because I became employed. Hello, good for me, having a job. And so I think I read, like, instead of 85, which is my goal, I read 67 or something, which is still a great number. And like only reading 2 books in November and December is not a failure. It's just that like sometimes life happens, and I'm always such a big proponent of like the way that we interact with media has been infected by like the internet and social media, and I feel like that's why I never rate books on a 5-star system, and almost everybody else does, and I find that to be a great disservice to the reading experience. Is like, I mean, you wouldn't look at A Starry Night and say, I give it a 4.5. That is ridiculous. So why are we doing that to books? I don't know. It just feels so silly to me. I don't rate movies numerically. I don't rate books numerically. I don't rate albums numerically. And so like, why don't I take this principle of like forgetting like internet habits and carve my own path? So no reading goal this year. Any book, any number of books that I read is the right number to read because it's what I had time for. And obviously reading is a major habit of mine, habit and hobby. And so like, it's not like I need to create a goal in order to motivate myself to read. If I don't read, I swear I get hives, I get withdrawals. So I'm gonna read. So I feel like putting a number is just gonna like stress me out. And like, am I up to date on my reading goal? Am I 1 book behind? That feels like a little sick and twisted to me, so I'm gonna stop doing that. And here I said I was gonna make it quick, and I just talked for like 3 minutes. Number 9, I want to learn more about myself through my reading. I want to do some more introspection. I want to really be able to hone and define my reading tastes. And I think by reading widely, this goes back to goal number 1, by reading outside of my comfort zone. If I read widely and I read popular books and I read banned books, I might be able to like hone what it is exactly that I like so that eventually when I do read all of my like physical books and I go to the bookstore, I kind of will have a bigger success rate in terms of buying books because I'll know exactly what I'm looking for and exactly what I like. So see how it's all tying together? Hello. And my number 10 is just make stuff. I want to write reviews, I want to make videos. I feel like I'm at my best mentally and energetically when I am making things and being creative. So I want to like merge my love of reading with my love of making things and, you know, try and make more unique video ideas for this year. Nobody is watching this channel, and that's okay. It's okay. I don't care. Um, but at the very least, I can entertain my husband with neat video ideas and entertain myself and make, you know, get better at editing videos. I can put that on my resume and just like have fun making things, no pressure. So that's my last goal of the year. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I didn't spin too much or make this noise too much. I hope I made sense. I always end these thinking, oh my god, I was rambling the whole time. I don't make any sense at all. And I'm having like an existential crisis. And then I go to edit the video and I'm like, I actually kind of know what I'm doing. So I hope you had a nice time. I think you should like and subscribe if you want to. And stick around. I've got some ideas cooking in my brain. In fact, right after I turn the camera off, I'm turning it back on to film an intro for a video idea that might be coming out like mid-February. So stick around. Miss you already. Okay, bye.